Hi guys, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. The title obviously gives it away what we're going to be talking about today. I want to make it super obvious though that my channel is not a channel just about The Apprentice. Obviously, because of the timing of everything, you know, I know you guys find this interesting, and that's one of the main reasons that you guys got to know me. So I will be talking about it. I will be vlogging each week. I'm also blogging on laurenriley.co.uk for a few business publications as well, so that should be really interesting to see how that progresses. But it was episode 1 of series 11 this time round, and yeah, I think it's been a weird process. Obviously, it's been a year since me and the candidates on series 10 were in it, and I thought I'd be a bit more nervous about it than I was. The music obviously strikes a bit of fear into you, but actually it was okay. So the credits started rolling, the same, I don't know if cheesy is even the right word, the same trumped up, let's say, lines that people say. And I know this makes the candidates really unpopular, but all I would say is don't judge them too harshly, because they have to say these sort of things to get on there in the first place. It is a show about entertainment, so even though I sort of listen to some of them and go, oh God, you know, I'll let that slide on their behalf, I think. One thing, so first opening boardroom, and you hear them saying all the jokes, I didn't hear that in my series, and looking back on the format of the entertainment of it, it must have been there, but I honestly cannot remember Lord Sugar and his panel cracking those sorts of jokes and the sort of raucous laughter from the candidates. I'm going to watch that with interest to see if that continues. I get the looking to be hired, but that bit was a bit over my head when I was in there. It must have been the stress of it. But the first boardroom was, as part of the process, was the absolute best bit, because it's the only time you're ever going to be in that room when somebody isn't out to get you. And then you get to go and see the house afterwards. I was a little bit underwhelmed with the house this time. I don't know if I was maybe looking at Twitter or something when they were showing the good bits, but it looked kind of average to me. So into the task then, it was obviously about fish. That's been done before, but I suppose in series 11 they're going to have to try and do something to spice it up a little bit. They swapped the sexes of the teams, which, yeah, it's not exactly revolutionary, is it? But I kind of liked, because the boys versus girls thing, it plays on a lot of gender stereotypes. It's a bit, you know, tired. It's not necessarily that healthy, I think, to be just concentrating on that thing. Sparks rivalries. But so this mixed the teams up, which I thought was fair enough. And then on to it's essentially a sales task. The first task of any series, from what I've seen, is always about sales. Sales is always going to be about margins. Obviously, they needed to procure the product for the lowest possible cost and sell it at the highest possible price. It's not rocket science, but they are under a lot of pressure in there. So one candidate, and obviously we know the result, we know that it was Dan that bit the dust on this occasion, so if I've spoilt it for anybody, but he actually started off in quite a refreshing way for me. So when he said, you know, I'm doing very well in business, I'm successful, but I have made mistakes, and it's those mistakes that I've learnt from, I actually thought, okay Dan, yeah, I see where you're going with that. I think it's big of him to admit to that, but in business, you know, people are going to make mistakes, and maybe if you've never made a mistake ever, which is a sort of grand statement somebody that's been on The Apprentice might say, maybe you're not trying hard enough and taking yourself out of your own comfort zone, and as we know, that's where the magic happens. So kudos to him for getting that out there early on. Then it comes to the task of who's going to be the project manager, which is always going to be a very difficult one. Clearly nobody wants to do that role first. One of the PMs got, obviously, the task thrust upon, but she did a decent job in this scenario, although obviously people were talking over her. But it's always like that every series, and I don't actually know, having been through that, what somebody's gonna do to stop that. I know it sounds like that's sort of imploring weak leadership, which of course I wouldn't do, and I wouldn't have it around my boardroom, but this is not a boardroom or a round table discussion that would ever happen in real life, let's face it. It's people desperate to make an impact on week 1 and not be accused of not doing anything. And okay, so it's going to happen that people get talked over. It was unfortunate, and obviously didn't paint her in the best light, but she came through in the end to win it, so fair enough. And then April obviously put herself forward, which I think, you know, it does take guts at this stage, and good for her. It might not have panned out exactly how she was hoping, but it certainly showed, you know, it showed some business leadership in terms of she was willing to take that risk from early on. Then during the task, obviously it's a sales task. Some people are going to be better at selling than others. Some people are going to be a more of a natural salesperson. I actually thought Ruth impressed me quite a lot today. I thought not only was I impressed with the stats that came out, that she obviously did sell quite a bit, it was more that she actually took the time out when she could have been selling to help the team. She tried to teach one of the other candidates, I think it was probably Dan, you know, how to sell, and that actually, because if you remember, if the team wins, they all win and none of them go back in the boardroom, and that's the thing that apprentice candidates fail to see week in, week out. It's all me, 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 and of course it's a competition, they all want to win the process, but if everybody would work together as a team, an example of which Ruth showed there, if somebody's weaker at something and but yet they can't be placed elsewhere, they have to be doing that part. If you can take a small amount of time out of any task in a business to bring that person up to scratch, that could have benefited the team. So I thought that was quite refreshing to see. What else? Oh yeah, poor Dan. When he said that line, and yeah, he was honest, so, you know, good on him, but when he said the line, you know, I don't sell, or something along the lines, or it's not my skill, not my forte, big to admit it, but that was just always going to be his downfall. As soon as those words came out of his mouth, I thought he was doomed, and he'd have had to go on then to sell shed loads to impress Lord Sugar to have mitigated the fact that he said that out loud. And he stuck to it. He carried on in his honest way, which you can't knock somebody for. But yeah, sales is a part of any job, whether you're used to selling fish or not. When it comes to a business that you're really passionate about, obviously my business is a link app. Whenever I go and meet a law firm or I talk about the product, I never feel like I'm selling it anyway because I'm so passionate about it, and I think that's the key. And I get it's kind of hard to be passionate about selling fish that you've picked up that morning, but sales is going to be part of business. So unfortunately it was Dan that went. I think that was probably cards were on the table. I did tweet about it at the time as well. I didn't think that April, the project manager, I didn't think that she would go. I thought that she actually, obviously she made some mistakes when she was looking at sourcing the product. She should have shopped around more and got the price down, but these people are under a lot of pressure. I know a lot of people would write her off now because she's obviously been in the boardroom really early on, but I think she's probably learnt some good lessons by that harsh experience. I think that at least she showed strength of character by putting herself forward. She had a very positive attitude, which I think can get you very far in business in general. I'm not talking specifically about the process, just in life in general. So I wouldn't write her off just yet. I thought I saw, okay, some poor decisions on reflection, but some promise as well. So overall, the episode, I don't know how everybody else felt, and I would be really interested to hear that feedback. Obviously, there's some candidates that we didn't hear anything from. It's a long show, edited down to a small show, and I'm sure they did contribute something along the way. That's always disappointing when you sort of see somebody in the boardroom and you think, I didn't actually see you in that whole time, but I know it's editing. So, to sum up, I don't know how everybody else felt about it, but I mean, I think I was a little bit underwhelmed, to be honest. I don't know if it's a difference from having never really been a huge watcher of the show before I was on it, to obviously watching myself on it, and obviously that the emotion and the charge it is really huge there. But I was a little bit underwhelmed, but I'm hoping that's just because it's episode 1 and there's so many different candidates to try and focus on and get through. I don't watch a lot of TV because all my time's really consumed in the Link app, but I have and I do love blogging and vlogging, and I hope that you guys will enjoy watching and listening along with me. We'll try and get these out ASAP after the show, but there's obvious constraints on time. I hope you enjoyed this as a first one. I'll definitely get your feedback on it and obviously try and meander through. We can experience this little journey together. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.